Right, it's Anzac Day here at Surly HQ, but it's no rest for the wicked. Might be a day off for all of you listening, but hey, I continue to grind, get the job done, and punch out the potties for your listening pleasure. Huge day today, can't wait to be at Mount Smart for this historic game. What a special occasion, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend it than Thursday Arvo footy at the Fortress, watching the Warriors go about their work in that beautiful Anzac jersey. That is going to be absolute scenes. They're turning it on pre-game too, so if you are heading along, make sure you're there nice and early, but of course we'll touch more on that in the NRL segment. Shout out to the TAB, really appreciate their support, getting behind the Surly Talk Sports podcast as always. If you're not already a TAB customer, head along to their website, download the app, sign yourself up, and if you are a customer and you haven't chucked your bets down for this week or today's game, make sure you head along to the Punters Lounge, check out all the promos they have on offer, power plays, boosted options, of course the Surly boost, that is in the mixer too. So shout out to the TAB, really appreciate their support and always riding with the STS community. It was a tough weekend for me and the Mighty Coat. Unfortunately the boys, we just couldn't get the job done against Massey in the wet. The Les Pear Shield was up for grabs, but Massey were by far the better team, coming away comfortable victors. I think she ended up 29 points to 12 in what was some tough conditions. She was almost draw-like, to be fair. Whenever the ball hit the deck, there was just puddles of water splashing up into the air. Almost found myself in a little bit of a Jack Hetherington type of scuffle too. That was exciting stuff. Certainly got the endorphins flowing. Bit of push and shove. Didn't eventuate into anything, of course, but it's always good to chuck yourself in the mixer and fire up the lads. Unfortunately, we got a bye this week, but it does open up the opportunity for some great team bonding. I think we're heading up to Matakana to do a bit of an obstacle course, then back down for maybe some lawn bowls in the Arvo in Northcote. That should be scenes. If not, bit of a lock-in in the number one changing rooms, beer pong, carver sesh, the works. So either way, she should be a great day. Plenty of sporting news to rip into, plenty of talking points across all codes, NRL, Super Rugby, NBA, boxing, with Garcia going the big lift and pulling off the upset against Haney. So without further ado, blow the whistle and let's kick her off. How good is a Thursday? Well, health continues to be wealth in the NRL, and unfortunately the injury bug, it is bit yet again, with some of the biggest names in the game looking like they're going to be ruled out for the long term. Unfortunately, Kalen Ponga, that puts to bed all the origin chat around who is going to wear the one for Queensland. There was lots of chat. Is it KP? Is it Reece Walsh? Certainly looks like it's going to be Walshy now. Ponga out for, they think, at least 3 months with a Liz Frank injury. I'm not sure who Liz Frank was, but that is a tough injury to pick up. You'd hate to have an injury named after you as well, especially one that is so detrimental. I do wonder why the Knights even bothered playing him in this game. He looked like he was at about 30% health right from the opening whistle. Even pre-game he said in the interview that he'd be chuffed just to make it through till halftime. So clearly he was battling with that back injury, and you'd have to think this injury could well be related as well. He was clearly favouring one side of his body off the back of that hip pointer, not his back. So tough signs there for KP fans, and you can certainly put a line through the Knights, in my opinion, now that there is no Ponga, because he is certainly their main threat. He'll probably come back with about 3 or 4 weeks to go in the regular season though, and still find a way to win the Dally M medal, such as the crock of shit that voting system is. And tough times for Raiders fans as well. Jamal Fogarty ruled out for also around 3 months. He's their key playmaker. They're going to go young in the halves now. If there's anyone that can get the best out of a young Joe, then it probably is Ricky Stewart. He'll find a way to motivate his troops, but tough scenes there. And shit, if you had Fogarty in fantasy like myself, then the return of Nathan Cleary has probably come at the perfect time. Sticking with the Knights and the game itself, she was a bizarre one with Jack Hetherington and Reed Marnie having a bit of a tunnel tussle, which is quite rare to see in today's game. I thought it was a joke at first. If you didn't see it, make sure you go search up the video. Jack Jack and Reed, they both got binned for some on-field antics. Jack, he's waiting for Reed up the tunnel, does a bit of shadow boxing, gets into his stance, looks like he's smucking around, had a bit of a smile on his face, but then he throwed a bit of a push jab which showed his intentions. He was clean to go. The old take it to the car park and grassroots footy type of antics there from him. Jack, he's aggressive. He's one of those old school footballers where he wouldn't have looked out of place in the game 10 or so years ago, so I have no doubt he was ready to throw hands. Reed, he certainly didn't look as keen, the little hooker taking on a big fella, but Jack, he cops a 1-week suspension. I was surprised it was only one. Freddie Lussick, you'll remember, he got 4 of the best for making a play on the kick. You're trying to charge down a kick in that game against the Bunnies, so you're telling me that trying to fight a bloke up the tunnel is worse than what Freddie Lussick did? I think that is taking the piss a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. Cowboys and Parramatta, what's doing with those two alongside the Warriors? You'd have to chuck them in the mixer. They were probably the 3 most disappointing teams last week. Shout out to the Dolphins, Trey Fuller, Max Plath and co. They really showed up. Fuller, I think he was actually with the Warriors while we were based over at Redcliffe on a bit of a train and trial gig. He looks every bit. He's almost like a Hammer 2.0, exciting, quick. Whenever he gets ball in hand, you move your bum to the edge of the seats, and it looks like Wayne Bennett might have unearthed another elite talent there. Brad Arthur, he must be on his last legs at Parramatta, surely. It's his 11th year at the helm of this team. They got a decent squad on paper, of course. No Mitchie Moses, he's a massive blow for them, but still, winning this game in Darwin to then get trounced by 40 plus points, that's disappointing. And ever since they lost that grand final back in 2022, they've been really pushing shit uphill. The Sharkies, they killed the cows to go to the top of the table, playing some good consistent footy with Hot Boy Hines pulling the strings. They got all the key elements really. They're a tough forward pack. They got some Raz outside and Ronaldo Mulatalo and Jesse Ramian, the old ramen noodle. They add AFB next year as well, so it's fair to say Craig Fitzgibbon is building a heck of a football side, and one that's going to be a real force not only next year but this year as well. Obviously the win, that got Braden Trindle a little too excited. He failed a roadside drug and alcohol test off the back of that game. He's been stood down as a result as well. Scored 2 tries and clearly decided to put on a big shift off field as a result. Booked a one-way ticket to Bender City, but then he made the ultimate mistake of getting behind the wheel instead of booking the old Prius, the hybrid, to come and pick you up. Get the Uber app out, son. You're probably on 400k plus a year, so surely a cheeky little $30 fare for the ride home won't hurt you too much. And on the Sharks as well, shout out to Dale Finucane, who has announced his immediate retirement. Unfortunately, it's for medical reasons due to copping a large amount of concussions. 251 games, 2 premierships, 5 caps for the New South Wales Blues. Probably holds the record as well for the bloke that sprints out the tunnel the hardest before kickoff as well. It's always bums on seats action whenever you see Dale just steaming out of the sheds. You gotta love it. So it is sad to see his career cut short, and hopefully this isn't a trend that continues long term in the NRL. On some rumoured signings, Jerome Hughes to Queensland. Apparently he wants to be closer to his family and he's looking to make the move. Will be a great signing for the Titans in my opinion. They need a 7. They're screaming out for one. I'm glad he's not there this week, but I think that might be enough as well if they can lure Hughes to help commit Fafita long term too. He's crucial, David Fafita. Locking him up will go a long way to securing the Titans' success in the future. If you chuck Hughes in there, then you got Tino, Brimson, Fafita, Jaden Campbell, Kieran Foran in the halves, a nice little Kiwis combo there. Then I think they could be a decent team next year, so surely they are chucking their checkbook well and truly at Hughesy. Jet Cleary, rumoured to be coming home to the mighty Wars, of course, born in New Zealand, so it would just be that, a homecoming. Maybe he could get out of his current contract at Penrith on compassionate grounds as well. The headline read during the week when the news was broke that Penrith were in a fight to keep Cleary after losing Fisher Harris. That was ultimate clickbait. It got me excited that maybe the people's chin, Nathan, was heading back to Mount Smart. Not to be in Jet though, he does look a pretty classy footballer. All wraps on him are that he's not quite to the same standard of Nathan, but he still goes good guns. He's a young lad, still with so much of his career ahead of him, playing well for the Penrith youth sides as well. well. So I can't help but feel like this would be a great get. And under Andrew Webster, he could really mould him into a great first grader. Part of me also wonders too if we could be possibly getting the ultimate Trojan horse job done on us here. Obviously the Warriors, we've signed Fisher Harris. We're a premiership threat this year with Adam, and we're going to be a massive premiership threat next year with James Fisher Harris. Maybe Ivan, he's seen the writing on the wall, thought shit, what the Warriors are doing over there under the Dally M coach is pretty special. Let me send my youngest son over as a sacrifice, chuck him into the Warriors camp. He can be a bit of a mole, tell me everything they're practicing, what they're working on, game plans for the week and co, so that when we play them in back-to-back grand finals, young Jet can spill the juice and leak the game plan. Fingers crossed that is not the plan, and this is just the case of the Warriors being a good fit for young Jet. I'd love to see it happen, so fingers crossed that happens. Of course, there was chat of it going through last year, never quite eventuated, so watch this space. Shawnee Johnson, speaking of Warriors halves, plenty of chat around him set to re-sign, and surely this gets done as well. Webby is keen. SJ, he said he's keen if the club wants to have him. He mentioned that playing with James Fisher Harris next year is something he would want to push on for as well. For me, I think this will be more about agreeing on the dollars and the amount of money on the contract rather than anything else. Of course, circumstances are different this time. He came back here just for the opportunity to come back home, so he probably returned on unders. Now off the back of last year, should have won the Dally M. This year playing some great form as well. I'm sure that money amount would have popped up. And saying that, rumours are James Fisher Harris signed for around $675,000 a year. That's what Fox News and whatnot were reporting anyway. So if that is the case, Adams on a mill. Quick math suggests there's about $315K there that we are left from that transaction in the green. So maybe that goes straight to the Prince of Penrose, Shawnee Johnson, and he gets a nice little top up. You'd have to say 700,000 to 800,000, probably in the right realm for Shawnee Johnson. 33 years old. The knock on him is that he is aging, but when you look around the competition, DCE 35, Benny Hunt, he's up there as well. The fact that these two guys are playing some of their best footy later in their career. Laura Vegas as well will be a big carrot to dangle for SJ to go again. So looking forward to seeing Webby and the team get this one done. I think the Warriors just look right when Shaun Johnson is in the 7 jersey. So stay tuned over the next couple of weeks, and fingers crossed this is a nice and smooth negotiation where both parties are happy. A win-win for all involved. Speaking of wins as well, shout out to the Warriors Harold Matt's side who are grand final bound. Of course, that is our under 17s. First year in the competition, and they're already going through to the big dance, which is unreal stuff. It's the first time a Warriors side has been in a grand final since the Stacey Jones coached under 20s team that bet the Broncos back in 2014. So massive for our Youth Pathways program. So much talent coming through the system. Some lads to watch in this game, the hooker and skipper Carwyn Patterson. Heck of a rugby league name, and he looks like a real gun on the paddock too. Westlake lad, so you know he's made of the right stuff, and he will lead this team around. Desmond Laban, younger brother of Jacob, he looks to be a real chip off the block in the second row. And then number 13, Lennox Tuiloma. He's a powerful ball carrier, scored a hissing try earlier in the year. It went viral because of his teammate doing the old mana wave celebration and cramping up. Too much mana in the old wave certainly got the best of him, but he looks elite, strong ball runner, got all the ball skills, can ball play as well. He's not just a nut trucker, and it always takes multiple defenders to stop him. So a huge game for them. Saturday, 2 p.m. kickoff against the Western Suburbs Magpies. You can watch that game live too on New South Wales Rugby League TV through the NRL.com website. Get up the boys, go and get the dub, pump the pies, and then we can celebrate our first premiership in 10 years in the first year of having a Harold Matt side. Bloody positive signs for the Wars in the future. Unfortunately, the top side, they didn't quite experience the same level of success up against the Dragons on the weekend. Mentioned them before, probably one of the 3 most disappointing performances of the weekend just been. We got off to a great start in this game, and I was flicking chats all across my group messages saying, shit, the Warriors are on here, we're going to pile on a cricket score, and you already know I had the house on Warriors 13 plus, but after that opening 10-minute stanza, we just didn't really offer a whole lot, to be fair. Lots of errors. I thought our defence was really disappointing. disappointing for a team that came into this game leading the competition for the least amount of points allowed to concede 30 to the Dragons. That was a tough shift, and full credit to the Dragons. Not only were we a bit off the boil, they also played incredibly well. Moses Sully, Zach Lomax, holy shit, I said last week I was stoked to see him in the centres and not on the wing. Man, did that come back to bite me in the backside. Benny Hunt, he went well, and that Dragons forward pack just continues to march them up the paddock. They're a big bunch of bodies. Their bench was huge as well. Certainly a lot more experienced than off the Rimu too. And I think ultimately that played a huge factor in deciding this game. In terms of standouts for us, Adam, he was exceptional as always. Can't help but think he was making a real statement with all the chat around James Fisher-Harris arriving next year. Probably saw the fizz online from Warriors fans and thought it was a great time to remind everyone just how good he is. Over 200 run meters yet again. Just another day at the office for big AFB. Tohu, he was tireless as always. 167 odd run meters and 48 tackles too. Got through a shit ton of work. As did Mr. Safe as Houses, Charles Nickel Klokstad, who ran his nuts off yet again. He's averaging 287 run meters this year, which is pretty wild. I believe this week is his 100th NRL game too, so a heck of a milestone for our workhorse, and he just shows up week in, week out. You know what you're getting from Chance, a bloody elite footballer. Overall, one of those games where you probably just want to flush it, and to be fair, in the NRL, it's a competition where if you don't show up at 100%, you're going to get put to the sword. But at the same time, and Warriors fans, this is where we need to check our expectations a little, especially those that are new on the bandwagon. You can't be at your best every week. The season, she's a roller coaster. You're going to have your peaks and your troughs. I'd like to think this was our trough, a Dragon side at home, fired up and playing good footy. So fingers crossed the lads can use that as a bit of a wake-up call, a reality check. It reignites the fire inside the belly, and we get equipped to go again today on what is set to be a huge occasion. So on to today's game, of course, the Warriors versus the Titans for your Anzac Day. And how good is this going to be? Massive occasion. Sold out Mount Smart, the fourth sold out home game at the Fortress this year. Firstly, I've had a lot of people ask me in the DMs why we're taking on the Titans and not Melbourne, as historically we do take on the lads from the Storm on Anzac Day. It is a repeat though of the last time we played at home on Anzac Day back in 2015 when we took on the Titans. Unfortunately, the lads, we lost that day, but shit, are we going to get them this year? She's a much different team to back in 2015 as well. We actually had John O'Wright on the wing that day and a spine of Tui Lolo here in the 1, Chad Townsend in the 6, Shawnee Johnson at 7, Thomas Lulawai at 9, and then Cappy pulling the strings as coach. So Cappy and SJ, they're the only two really that ride on through in today's clash. Usually we do play the Storm, but the NRL, they actually didn't want to move this game from Melbourne. She's a big old day of AFL at the MCG, so the word on the street is that they actually capture a lot of those AFL fans who then walk to Amy Park just across the road to get some bums on seats and watch this game. Personally, I think it's a pretty piss poor excuse. Melbourne, they are our Anzac Day rivals. They should have done the right thing, made the trip over the ditch and continued that history. I also think they're scared to take us on. They know they were bloody lucky to come away with that last-ditch win against us earlier in the season. They know if they came over to New Zealand shores, then we would well and truly put them to the sword. But I'm really looking forward to this game, and regardless of who we take on, just the honour of hosting an Anzac game. It's something we don't get often, only our second in history, and I know everyone is well and truly going to enjoy this occasion. 4 p.m. kickoff on your Thursday. Get that into you, and this becomes a must-win game for us too, off the back of last week. In fact, I think the next two are games we really need to get up for. We've got the Titans at home today, and then we've got the Knights away without Kalen Ponga next week. We have to bank these before taking on the Roosters in Sydney, and then the Panthers for back-to-back away games as well at Magic Round. So we've got a bit of a road trip coming up. We need to get the 2 points in these next two, and that all starts today for your your team news, Curdy Capewell, unfortunately, he will miss this one after suffering a throat injury against the Dragons. Lots of people saying he ran for shit all meters, and to be fair, both him and Jacko Ford were well and truly off the boil offensively. I think they combined for only 57 odd total run meters, whereas Jacko Ford, he's averaging over 100 just by himself. So that was certainly the case on attack. Capewell, though, I believe he made 43 tackles, so he still showed up defensively. He's replaced today, though, for the only change in the starting side by the young bull in Jacob Laban, and I can't wait to see him run out there with the 12 jersey on. I think he's going to be in for a massive day, punching holes off SJ's shoulder. So fizzing for that. Dylan Walker, welcome back, son. A huge inclusion back into our 17. Shit, have we missed him over the last couple of weeks. I think the weekend too was a great display of that. Touched on before how our bench was outdone for experience and size by the Dragons team. Walks, he's not the biggest body, but man does he bring a lot of energy and a real attitude where you just know he's going to go out there. Whenever he gets his boarding pass, he will rip in for however long Webster decides to chuck him out on the paddock. You always see the team lift whenever the Walks comes into the mixer, so it is huge for us to have him back in the squad. And then also off the bench, here we go. Fire it up, ladies and gentlemen. The debut for the Samoan Sledgehammer, Big Zion Mai U'u. Can't wait for this one. I was hoping it was going to come last week. I thought he might make his way into the 17 late. Instead, it was just Paulie Roach who came into the team. This week, though, he's made his speech, his jersey's been presented, and he is ready to back fence it with the best of them. If you love watching Bunty wind up, then you're in for an absolute treat today. Zion, he's got a bit of that in his game too. A true enforcer. He's an alpha dog. He may only be young, but what he lacks in age and experience, he makes up for in pure aggression. Said last week, Laban, Ali Leatoa, Zion, Leka, Tanastawa Smith, Dimitri Sifakula. These are the guys that are going to lead us into the future, and today we get to see two of them lace up on what is a special occasion. Can't wait for that. SJ, he continues to play through the Achilles injury. Webby leaked it during the press conference, and I saw SJ was actually a little surprised that Webby did mention that. But he's named in the 7 jersey, again showing state of origin level of toughness to push on through, and he will lead us around the park. And despite being rumours rife, interesting as well, Montoya, he maintains his starting spot on the wing, RTS in the centres. There was quite a few in the media saying they'd heard whispers Adam Pompey to come in the centres, Roger to push out to the wing like he was against the Rabbitohs, but that is not the case. Webby stays true, and to be fair, I love having Mars in this side. It's not just what he brings on the field, but off it as well. I will say though, we do need to get a lot more pill to Roger, and he did look dangerous out on the wing, so I guess it's a win-win with both options. Would love to see him in off the sting for some early scoots in our yardage shits as well, because we all know he is a workhorse there. But hey, in Webby we trust, and I certainly love Mars. So on we march. For the Titans, our opposition, Coach Desi Hasler, he's sticking with the same 17 that pushed Manly last week, but in saying that, they're still winless, 0-6. They're a bunch of losers, so don't let last week's solid effort from them fool you, trick you into thinking they're half decent. We're going to get them, we're going to put them to the sword and rack up a famous victory. In terms of what I want to see this week, we need to bounce back in a major way in all aspects of our game. Another fast start will be great, but we then need to carry that through for the remaining 70 minutes of the game and put in a real polished performance. I'd like to see Tamare Martin step up in the halves and put in another shift like he did in that game against the Bunnies in his first week back. Our attack, it was way too right side dominant. It was shades of last year. Thought we missed Metcalf mainly last week because he was stepping up and doing a bit more ball playing on the left, but at the same time, T can do that through, and we need to show shape on both sides of the paddock in order to be less predictable. Opposition sides, if we're not presenting much of a threat on the left, they're just going to overstack numbers on the right and negate some of our best attacking talents. We need to get Roger in the game more, and we also need to lock down our defence too, which was the best in the comp like I touched on for the first 6 6 rounds. Last week, though, we let ourselves down there. That's not us, so I expect a major shift in our defensive attitude, and the boys will look to bring back that level 4 lockdown as we turn it on. So Anzac Day, very special occasion. Have it on good note as well. The Warriors will host the largest contingent of New Zealand Defence Force personnel in the world today. 180 of our Army, Navy and Air Force will all be there to perform to a sold-out Mount Smart before the game kicks off. This shit is going to be huge. The atmosphere is going to be elite. Every hair in the stadium will be standing up. Our first Anzac game in 9 years. So get amongst it this Arvo and up the mighty Warriors. We're going to put in a performance that is fitting of such a special occasion. In terms of the other games this week, of course, you got the Dragons taking on the Roosters later on tonight. A historic game, a big rivalry, and one I think you'd be foolish to write off the Dragons here as well. The Roosters, roller coaster, up and down, can't get a Kieran Reid on them. The Dragons, can they put together back-to-back positive performances away from Wynn Stadium? We will soon see. Then you got the Bunnies taking on the Storm at 10-10 tonight. I'll be back in the Storm to win, but I will be keen to see how the Bunnies come out. Off the back of a bye, a few changes in the coaching staff, they got a new assistant, and also a couple changes in the playing lineup. Damien Cook back in the mixer. Surely they'll be better than what they dished up prior to the bye. At the same time though, Melbourne in Melbourne. I think they just get it done. Friday, just the one game for your full fizz Friday. Manly taking on Para. She's an NRL debut for young Ethan Sanders in the halves with Dejan Arce, old Dijon Mustard, the Mustard man, dropping out with concussion. Matty Lodge, he makes his way onto the bench for Manly too in his first game back from an ACL injury, and it appears his ACL is not the only thing that's back as well. He's come back rocking a full header here, so it looks like he's done the Izzy Dag shot over to Turkey. Maybe he got the 2-for-1 and got his teeth done too. So well done to Lodgy, one of the great comebacks there in that hairline, and interested to see how he goes. Super Saturday, Tigers taking on the Broncos. Haas, Reynolds, Piakura, the big dogs are back for Kiwi Walters, and shout out to ex-Chiefs winger too, Solomon Alai-Malo, who will make his NRL debut on the Sting for Benji's lads. Really keen to see how he goes. He was a huge talent with so much potential, never quite kicked on here, due more so to personal reasons off field, so hopefully he can have a big performance in what should be an entertaining game to watch. Pencil him in for an anytime media as well as a real feel-good story. And interesting to note too, the Tigers have been a real bogey side for the Broncos as of late, but more of that in your punting chat later on in the pod. Cowboys vs Panthers, that'll round out your Super Saturday. Nathan Cleary, the people's chin, he is back. They've managed to stay in fourth on the ladder without him, and now they'll really look to get into their work now that the son of Ivan, brother of Jet, is wearing the 7 jersey. Super Sunday, Finns take on the Knights. I'm back in the Finns to smoke them there, KP-less, so the Knights are done. Raiders vs Sharks, of course, Raiders running out a young combo, KO Weeks and Ethan Strange. Fogarty, he's done and dusted. Trindle, of course, in hot water, so Daniel Atkinson gets the debut for Fitzy's lads here. I'm picking a bit of a Nico Hines clinic, although I think it is Ricky Stewart's 500th game as an NRL coach, so maybe the Green Machine, they go the big lift for Sticky Ricky. So another great round ahead, round 8, Anzac Day. Get up the Wars today, a special occasion, and we're going to back it up with a special performance. Laban's first start, Zion on debut, a real glimpse into the future for us. We win, and we win well. See you out there at the Fortress. Super Rugby, and she was a 13-plus week last week. All 4 games resulted in big wins, with the Blues probably making the biggest statement of the round in front of about 11 people at Eden Park. Fair to say they're struggling to pull crowds, but they're playing some great code. Pumped the Brumbies 46 points to 7. It was a huge performance from their forward pack, and I touched on it last week. This Brumbies pack, they're no joke, especially at set piece time, but it looks like under coach Vern Cotter, he's really really added a tough, consistent edge to this forward pack. You got guys like Dalton, Hoskins, Satutu in particular playing some of their best footy. The Hoss, shit as he put his hand up to Razor Ray and said, I'm the most dominant number 8 in New Zealand rugby at the moment. An unreal skill set. The biggest knock on him though has probably been his work rate around the paddock and his lack of want to just fly in and do the tough stuff, hitting rucks, dominant carries, multiple back-to-back repeat efforts, all effort type of stuff. But under Vern Cotter, it looks like he looks to be a whole new footballer. And shout out to the Blues. Over the last 6 games, they've conceded around 35 points in total. That's under 7 points per game. If you can run a defensive cutter like that, you're going to go a long way to winning this competition. And I can't wait to see them take on the Canes at Eden Park in a couple of weeks' time. The Canes, they certainly flexed their depth as well and defeated the Drua in Fiji to hand the Drua their first loss on home soil this year. Even a fired up Fijian crowd that was absolutely fizzing at the bung wasn't enough to get the home side over the line. The Canes, they tackled their dicks off all game long, made over 235 tackles compared to the Drua, who racked up 50. The Drua, they were a bit of their own worst nightmare, made mistakes galore, really did chance their hand, dominated possession, and certainly threw a lot at the Canes, but in the end, they just didn't have enough in the duffel bag to come away with the win. It wasn't all plain sailing for the Canes though. They did suffer a big injury. Unfortunately, Asafo Amoa, he's done an MCL in what is a huge blow, and he looks like he'll be out for 6 to 8 weeks, which will see him return just for finals footy. He'll miss the remainder of the regular season. If there's complications in his rehab, there is that small possibility he might not be back at all as well. So it's tough for them. On top of the Roygaard injury, losing Almoa, that really does compound things. Luckily though, they have a bloody good squad, 1 to 30 odd. They're stacked with talent. They've got good hookers. They've got good halfbacks, blokes that are ready to come in and replace both of those superstars. Almoa, he's been unreal this year. Gave him a big rap last week. So I'm keen to see how the Swirls respond to this injury. He's in their leadership group. I think he's co-captain as well. So tough scenes there, and fingers crossed he rests well, because I really want to see him wearing a black jersey this year. A massive game for them this weekend, heading over to Canberra to take on the Brumbies as well. Tell you what, I'm about ready to put a line through the Crusaders. They lost the wooden spoon bowl to the Force on the weekend and did so in emphatic fashion, getting pumped 13 plus type of stuff. They now sit dead last, and geez, do they look all at sea. Errors, poor discipline, they look nothing like the Crusaders of old. The hallmarks of their game appear to have deserted them, and surely they're starting to question the systems that they're running, the setup, the messages they're getting from the coaches. They look to be a shambles. Shout out to Sevu Reece, who appears to be the only one that is firing shots week in and week out. Off the back of his ACL injury, he hasn't skipped a beat. I think he now too is the Crusaders' highest ever try scorer, holds the record after dotting down again on the weekend. He's putting in big performances. He's a menace at ruck time. He has the razzle dazzle, tough as shit, strong on defense. So good to see him bounce back in a major way, and fingers crossed he can motivate a few of his old teammates to find their form as well. They've been hit hard with injuries this year, but they're starting to welcome back troops. They got Blackadder and co back in the mixer now. So for me, the excuses are starting to run thin, and they really need to show up this week. Tell you what, was watching Sky the other night too. Aaron Cruden mentioned that he was offered a contract from the Crusaders to play for them this year. Can't help but think he would have been a massive addition, old Crudes, running the cutter in the 10 jersey, because shit do they miss Fergus Burke. Looked like he was going to be back a couple weeks ago, tweaked his calf. Maybe he's good to go this week in what is a huge home game for them. And another team you can put a line through is the Landers. Unfortunately, put to the sword last weekend, 31-0 against the Reds over in Queensland. Held to the donut. That is bloody embarrassing stuff. I was so excited by this Highlanders team earlier in the season, full of youth and razzle. They played such an exciting brand of footy, that back three in particular. Then you chuck in the likes of your Sammy Gilberts, Falau Fakatavas. They look like a side capable of beating even the best teams in the competition on their any given day. You turn this game on though, and they look the complete contrast. The team low on confidence. They're certainly not backing their abilities. They look like they have no direction at all. All the razzle that is now gone from their game, and this one was a bloody tough watch. Lots of errors from both teams, but well done to the Reds for getting the dub. So on to this week we march, and we're finally back to full rounds. All teams back on the paddocks. The byes are over, and this week we get treated to an Anzac special as well. All the Kiwi sides taking on the Aussie sides, and then we get a Pacific battle, which is sure to entertain. For your Full Fizz Friday, Crusaders taking on the Rebels. The Rebels, they've never won in Christchurch. This is their chance to make history on this trip. Off the back of the bye, they'll be licking their lips to take on a wounded Crusaders side. For the Crusaders, the positives I guess they can take. The last time they were at home, they bet the Chiefs and put on their best performance of the year. They look a long way from repeating that at the moment, but at the same time, buy one, get one free tickets. Maybe the Christchurch locals show up in a major way, and that can give them the boost, because this team is on the ropes. They certainly need every single fan that they can get. Then following that, you got the Tars versus the Chiefs. Chiefs off the bye, sitting in fifth. Now for me is where they really need to flick the switch and up the ante on their season. I predicted a Canes versus Chiefs final for Super Rugby this year. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be the Canes versus the Blues, but I still think the Chiefs on paper have the squad to well and truly be a title contender. They just haven't quite clicked up against the best teams in the comp. Now they go on a nice little run over the next month. They take on the Tars this weekend in Sydney, come home, take on the Force, then they got the Moana and the Rebels. They need to bank all four of these and do so with bonus points, put in some good clinical performances and show they are the real deal, like myself and many thought they were. Super Saturday, this is going to be a huge game. Can't wait for this one. The Drua versus Moana in La Toka. Shit, is this going to be a cool game. The Battle of the Pacific in Fiji, she's going to be entertaining. If the last time they played is anything to go by, she's going to be points aplenty. It finished 47-46 in Fiji last year. There were 93 points scored in 80 minutes. That game was actually at the same venue too, so the writing is on the wall. Strap in, she's going to be a doozy. Brumbies, they host the Canes, and this won't be an easy trip for the only remaining unbeaten side as well. The Brumbies at home looking to bounce back. Canes have to make the trip over to Canberra. Apparently she's a shithole. The old Aussie capital can bore players into submission, so fingers crossed it's a hit and run job for them and they can get back home quick smart. Off the back of a trip to Fiji, it's not easy to go to Canberra either. A real Daryl Tuffy of a game to back up with, so this should be interesting. Down a couple of their regular starters too. Now we get to see what the Canes are really made of. I'll still back them in, but I think it could be tight. And then your final of the Anzac clashes, Reds take on the Blues. 4 games on your Super Saturday. That is good stuff. This is a famous Crips vs Bloods grudge match here. Well, that'll have the gangs across both sides of the Tasman watching this one closely. I'll back the Blues. They're so consistent at the moment, with that defense being the cornerstone of their game. I back them to take that form on the road and get the job done, but don't underestimate the Reds, especially in Queensland. They will be up for this one. So a good hissing round of Super Rugby, all teams back on the paddock, and I can't wait to see some of the results that come off the back of round 10. Get up, the Kiwi sides. Weekly wrap time now. We'll look to punch this one out and start actually, bit of a pun there with the boxing. Ryan Garcia getting his win over Haney in what was one of the strangest build-ups ever by a boxer heading into the biggest fight of their career. Garcia, he rocked up, looked like he'd been drinking throughout his whole training camp. Apparently he had been. He said so in the press conference. So he rocks up, didn't make weight, looked pretty dusty. Then he goes on to bet $2 million on himself to win the fight, which he did, so he pockets $12 million off the back of that bet. He reckons his total winnings and appearance fee with the pay-per-view money factored in is going to be north of $50 million. So what a day for Garcia. Shit, did he look good too. He talked a lot in the build-up, as did his family, but he backed her up in the ring and got the job done. And what an interaction that was, post-fight as well, between Henry Garcia, Ryan's dad, and Eddie Hearn. Started off, Eddie compliments him, he gets back a big insult, hits him with the up yours, looks like it's going to go south, there's going to be a bit of a confrontation, a Jack Hetherington, Reed Marnie type of display, but then it fully flips on its head, they end up being best mates, mutual respect, and on they march. I actually didn't realise you could bet on yourself in boxing, which is bloody interesting too. It seems like the only sport where you could get away with that. She's full of corruption, contention, and whatnot. Really does leave the door open for some elite match fixing as well, but well done to Ryan Garcia. I had Haney winning this one comfortably. That wasn't the case, and I'll be keen to see a rematch of this for the title if Garcia can actually drop those 3 pounds and make weight. Onto your NBA finals, and Tuesday dished up 2 doozies of games. A heartbreaker for me with the Lakers, but let's touch on that now. Firstly, we'll rip into the Knicks, who stole a win at home late to go up 2-0 on the Sixers. The series will now go back to Philly. Not an easy place to win, the most hostile crowd in the NBA it seems, but shout out to the heartthrob, Joshy Hart, who's gone big for the Knicks in this series, and well done to the New York side who defended home court. Certainly looks like the health of Joel Embiid is going to be the deciding factor and the biggest topic throughout this series, but a great result there for the home side in a thrilling game. And speaking of thrillers, Lakers vs Nuggets, doesn't get more exciting of a finish than that. The Lakers, they look like they were going to make it 1-1, get a famous win on the road in what is considered to be the hardest place to go into and get the dub. In Denver, against a bloody good side, playing at altitude, all the odds are against you. The Lake Show, they were up by 20, you shouldn't lose from there, but still, no one told the Joker and Jamal Murray, they got them back in the mixer, and then old Jamal hit a fuck-off buzzer beater. He'd been shithouse all day, building a castle with all the bricks he was laying down, but then he pulls that out right on the siren to get the win over the top of an outstretched AD. A bloody tough shot to make, so full credit to him there. At the same time, it was a tough loss for us LeBron fans to follow. The GOAT, he was great throughout this game, so you can take some personal satisfaction from that performance, but still, it is hard, up by 20 to swallow an L. So now we go back to LA, we'll be desperate for a win, and fingers crossed the Lake Show can get this one done. Then today you got the Heat taking on the Celtics. I'll be back in the ticks to be too good at home there. I think they're going to sweep that series, or maybe even 4-1 if Miami can steal one at home. And then you got the Pels versus the Thunder. Shit, that first game went right down to the wire. They'll back the Thunder at home. Their home crowd showed up in a massive way. The atmosphere there seemed elite, so hopefully they can get the job done, my second team throughout this playoffs, and get up OKC. And then a quick look at the Premier League and A-League before we wrap up the weekly wrap, and all is not dead and buried for the pool. The lads got the dub 3-1 against Fulham last week, and now my optimism is back in a major way. We've got a big game this morning up against Everton, our biggest rivals. We share the town with them, and hopefully we can get it done. Up the pool, you'll never walk alone. Go and get it, lads. And shout out to Chelsea, who did us absolutely no favours yesterday morning too, getting dicked by Arsenal 5-0. It's not good for our goal differential, and also I was hoping Chelsea could at least pull off a famous draw there to keep us well and truly in title contention. Shout out to the Phoenix, who are in title contention and are looking to win that minor premiership for the first time ever in the A-League. A 1-1 draw last week against the Jets, missed a golden opportunity to win that game as well. Had a penalty, Oscar Zawada should have taken it. Instead, the skipper steps up, couldn't get the job done, but hey, you get that on the big jobs, and this is certainly a big job, chasing our first minor prem. It's the final round of round robin this week, round 26. The Knicks, we're hosting MacArthur, which more sounds like someone's last name than an actual football side. Unfortunately, they're decent though, despite their name suggesting they might not be. They're sitting in fourth. A win here would be huge for us, so hopefully we can pull this off. We're 1 point ahead of the Mariners at the moment, who still have a game in hand after their game last week was postponed. They do take on the Jets next week though, and the Jets have shown they love a draw. That would be huge for us if they could pull that off. So up the Knicks, go the big lift, lad, and can't wait to celebrate the first ever minor prem for a Kiwi side in the A-League. How good. Fire up the TAB app, she's time to rip into some punting now, brought to you of course by the best betting platform in New Zealand for all things sports and racing punting. Last week had some great wins. The Magic Multi, your best bet. She didn't quite come in, but never fear. NRL was here, as was Super Rugby. She was green ticks on bet slips throughout plenty of these games, so make sure you tune in. Remember, there's promos, boosted odds, power plays galore, so head along to the Punters Lounge on your TAB app or their website to check out all the deals on offer, and hopefully your Anzac Day is good for you and we can salute on the Carmichael punt today. Warriors vs Titans. Warriors go in clear favourites, $1.12 head to head. Titans at $4.20. Odds for the Stoners there. The line is at 12.5 Rugby League points, and the total points is set at 44.5. Some stats for you. Take these first two with a grain of salt, because I've chosen to ignore them myself. The Warriors, we've lost our last 8 straight Anzac Day games. Ignore that though. The Titans, they've also won 3 of their last 4 games against the Warriors, but the Titans have only won 1 of their last 5 in New Zealand, and that is the most important stat of all. Of course, the Warriors, we also have the best head-to-head win percentage against the Titans of any team in our NRL history. We've won 20 of the 32 clashes, 62.5% win rate, so we add to that today. Dallin, he continues to score tries for fun. He scored 11 tries in his past 10 games at home, and he scored 5 tries in his last 6 games this year. $1.57 for him. I think he's a guaranteed tick on your slip, so chuck him in. Mentioned before as well, Chan's 100th NRL game, if you like yourself a milestone bet. So for this clash, I've gone Warriors into Laban and Dell for a same game claim, paying $7.50. If that misses by 1, you'll get your money back as a bonus bet up to $50. So a free swing really, because we know the Wars will win and we know Dell will dot Laban. He's the juice in that multi. Then Warriors into C&K for a milestone bet. I'll be jumping on that too, because I don't want to miss this opportunity. Dragons versus Roosters. I like the Drags here to cover a favourable line of 6.5. They're $2.75 underdogs. The Roosters $1.43. This one's at Allianz, despite it being a Dragons home game, so they've been well and truly gypped there. The points total is 43.5. The Roosters, they've won 4 of their last 6 Anzac Day games against the Dragons, but I really like what the Dragons have been dishing up at the moment. Under Shane Flanagan, I actually had them to win the spoon, but they've shown they're going to be way too consistent to do that. That's going to go to that other loser team that we are taking on. Zach Lomax, he scored 5 tries in his last 5 games, and Tyrell Sloan, he scored 13 tries in his last 16 games. So I'm going Dragons plus 6.5 point start into low job anytime. Zachy Lomax to salute with some meat. Then to round out your Anzac Day, Storm versus the Bunnies. Storm $1.22 favourites, and fair enough too. They've won their past 7 straight Anzac games, and they've won 13 straight at home. Add to that, the Rabbitohs, they've lost all 18 games they've played in Melbourne. They hate going there, so the Storm, they get the job done here. Xavier Coates, he scored 25 tries in 22 games on his home paddock, so he will salute for a nice little multi. Gulls Para, Friday night footy, Manly $1.34 favourites, Para paying $3.15. The line is 9.5, and the total points is 44.5. I'll be going on Manly, and I like Hamoli Olakauatu to punch through for some meat. Super Saturday, Tigers versus Bronx. Touched on before how the Tigers have been a bit of a bogey side for the Broncos. If you think they can get the job done at home, $3.95, some real value there. Broncos $1.23 favourites, and with all their ins back in, you would think they would be too strong. They've actually won 4 of their last 6 games against the Broncos though, Benji's lads, but in saying that, the Broncos have won their last 7 straight at Campbelltown, and the Tigers have lost their last 9 games there. What a home ground that is proving to be. Jordan Ricky, he scored 4 tries in his last 3 games against the Tigers, so Broncos into Pretty Ricky. Looks like a great bet for that game. Cowboys versus Panthers. Cows all over the show. Panthers, the people's chin is back. $1.29 favourites, and fair enough too. I'm just going to take them head to head with Taruva to dot down. He's scoring tries for fun at the moment, that bloke. Then Sunday, to round out your NRL NRL weekend. You got the Finns taking on the Knights. Finns $1.42 favourites at home. The Pongalist Knights at $2.80. The Dolphins, they lead the NRL for points scored on average per game this year, running at just over 28 per fixture. The Knights, they've only won 3 of their last 10 games without Ponga. Jermaine Isako, he scored 5 tries in 2 games against the Knights last year. And then Jackie Bostock, he scored 6 tries in his last 4 games this year. So Finns into Bostock, that just makes sense. And then Raiders versus Sharkies. Raiders round us out, 270 underdogs, and Ricky's 500th. The Sharkies, $1.44, playing some consistent code. The Raiders, they've actually won 5 of their last 6 games at home and have beaten the Sharks in their last 4 at Canberra. So if you think that young halves duo can get the job done, then there's some real value at 270 on the nose, and even more so on that 1 to 12 market. Ronaldo Mulatalo, he scored 9 tries in 10 games against the Raiders, and he scored in his last 9 straight games as well. So certainly some value getting around him. For your NRL multi this week, come up with 2, a head-to-head multi and then a try-scorer multi as well. Played her safe on the head-to-head, just gone with some Storm, Finns, Manly and Warriors action. That's paying $3, all short favourites, so hopefully that is a sure thing. And then for a try-scorer, gone with the old Wicked Wingers combo. I always go back to this when I'm in doubt and searching for a win. Dallin to score, Coates to score, Bostock to score. Stats suggest all 3 will salute. $4.94. Get up the old Wicked Wingers. Super Rugby this week, Crusaders, I'm backing them 1 to 12 to right the wrongs and get the job done. The Chiefs, I think they should 13 plus the Tars and come away with a big road win. The Drua, I like them at home against Moana, but the overs screams out to me. 62.5 points, 93 last time in this fixture, like I touched on, so surely that goes over. Brumbies at home up against the Canes side. I am backing the Canes, but I think it should be tight in that 1 to 12 margin. Landers, I'll back them in just because I want the New Zealand sides to do the clean sweep, and surely they lift at home against the Force side that should still be too dusty after celebrating their first dub against the Crusaders. And the Blues, they'll just tick all the boxes, get the job done and escape Brizzy with the 4 points. So for my oval ball multi for your Super Rugby action this weekend, remember if it misses by 1, you get your money back up to $50 on a 4-legger. 6-legger, you can miss by 2. 8+ legs, you can miss by 3. How good is that? I got the Blues head-to-head, the Highlanders head-to-head, the draw Moana game overs points. The Chiefs, I've got them to win by over 7.5 as a try-bet option against the Tars. Surely that comes through at $1.40. And then I got the Brumbies plus 12.5 on that home point start, because I think the Canes will get them 1 to 12, but it gives you that insurance if the Brumbies do get up and pull off the upset at $1.42. 5-leg multi there, $6.39, miss by 1, boner back. All good. NBA for today. Like I touched on before, I'm backing the Ticks to be way too strong for the Heat and get the job done there. And then I also think the Thunder will be too strong for the Pels, but there's a good bet here, and it comes in the top rebounds category. So at the moment for the playoffs, you can bet on the player you think will finish with the top assists, the top rebounds, top 3-pointers. They've all got their own markets. Been running a bit of a parlay on this over the last couple days, and it's been saluting with great success. Now up to about $100 off a tenner, so hopefully that continues. For this game, I'll be going top rebounds, Valanciunas. He had an absolute field day in the first game of this series. Of course, the Thunder, they are not the biggest side. Big Val, old Volcanoes, he pulled in 20 rebounds. If he tops over 15 or so, then he should salute there. Chet Holmgren, he's your main suspect for the Thunder that you got to worry about, but I think he will clear that. Then on to your best bets. I'm 8 from 11 on these now. Last week I had the Warriors into the Phoenix, win or draw, paying $2.48. Phoenix got the tick there, but the Warriors, they let me down. This week though, they won't let me down on back-to-back games. So I'm going them into Valanciunas to lead the rebound tally in that game. Get up, you beauties. And then for your Magic multi, your Ivan Leary bet, gone with 2 that I think are great guns, and then Jacob Laban, just to juice her up. I can't believe the big fella, he's paying $5 to score a try with that Anzac jersey on. Say Leslie Ray Arcee. So I've chucked him in with the Drua game to go the overs and the Phoenix to get the win over MacArthur, the team of last name fame. They're paying $14.52 for that little 3-leg multi, so hopefully that can salute. So shout out again to the TAB, really appreciate their support. Get around them, get on the Surly boost, gamble responsibly, 18 plus, but hopefully I've tipped out a couple winners there. Green ticks on bet slips, and good luck on the old punt. So that'll do on your Anzac Thursday. Plenty of sport covered off there. Hopefully ticked all the boxes for everyone listening. So much sport to look forward to this weekend. Almost feels like a long weekend, of course. Tomorrow, Friday, she's a normal work day. Smart punters out there. The elite few of you might have taken the day off so you can well and truly push the boat out. Can't wait to be at the Fortress this Arvo. Then tuck the teeth into everything that the other two Anzac games have on offer. Get up the Mighty Wars, up the Blues, up the Chiefs. Get up the Lake Show, get up the Thunder. How good is sport? She's all go at the moment. Catch you back here, same time, same place next week to debrief everything that's gone down this weekend and look forward to another huge week next weekend. Good luck on the punt. Go well. If you're playing grassroots sports this weekend, hope you get the dub. Warriors 13 plus, get up the Surly boost too. Big fizz.